Today's episode is brought to you by NYXL Stomping Houston.
It's high noon.
Everyone, and welcome to High Noon Podcast, the competitive Overwatch podcast. I am your host, The Blevins. With me, as always, is Deathblow. What's up, buddy?
Not too much. Just realizing my light's off, so I'm going to turn it on so people can see me.
Yeah, I mean, although I don't know if you want to be showing people that whiteboard in the background. So,
no, I'm not ashamed of the whiteboard. I'm not ashamed of the whiteboard. Just my general shame. You get to talk a little too much smack today for me to be in a good mood.
Yeah, and I didn't even do the today's episodes brought to us by because I'm an idiot. But I'll put it in post.
It's okay. So it's only like 108 episodes in. You know, it's not like where should be.
True story. I still right before I'm about to say hello, everyone, welcome. Like I still think I'm doing it wrong. So. Very weird. I don't know why.
Foul play feels weird to start and end for me, Stoney. Granted, I'm not even 10 episodes deep. But yeah, it's goofy.
Let's not go on a tangent this early about something that's not even relevant at all, especially since we're going to try to condense the beginning of the show. Let's just jump right into it. This isn't new patron hype. It's like updated patron hype, and it is of the most hype level to date, for sure. Phoenix O upped their already very generous patron from the gold tier $10 to a whopping $21. Unprecedented.
Insane.
Absolutely insane. And notably,
I feel 98% sure that it was just to force us into the what's it called?
I was going to say, I think notably this does put us at our next goal, Patreon goal, which is 12-hour patron appreciation stream, which is going to be happening to be determined soon. TM definitely is going to be happening. We're going to have a
probably between stages or something like that because it's a little easier at that time, but very soon, as soon as possible.
Might be between stages. It's going to be at some point. I literally could have done it on Saturday, but I didn't want to just throw it on there. I want to have a little bit of build up. So we will be talking about it in Discord. I think I'll pose the question in like show suggestions or something. So get in the Discord, especially if you're a patron. Get in Discord. We're going to be taking your feedback. Like when should we do it? Like logistically, I know there's a lot of people. We can't serve everyone, but I want to do it at a good time. It's going to be 12 hours long, so you're probably going to have a chance to get in there at some point. But it's going to be a stream. Going to be playing Overwatch. We might potentially do it on a maybe even like before the playoffs, like the day of the playoffs, and then stream and play most of it, and then turn the end of it into a watch stream. I don't know. We'll see. Nothing is set in stone other than the fact that it is going to happen. So keep an eye out for that over in Discord. So quick rundown of what we had last week for the show. Obviously, new episodes of Blackwatch Report, and I believe there's another interview in there as well from Blackwatch Report. So that has its own iTunes feed. I know a lot of you have subscribed to it already, but if you have not and you want to keep up on the Tier 2 scene, check that out. That's hosted by Thornrain and Kyle Wynn. Great show. They've been getting some really great guests on too. So Blackwatch Report on iTunes or wherever you get podcasts, it is there. We also had an episode of Around the Payload, like we always do, and that was another great episode. We had some literally last minute cancellations. Kind of throw a little bit of a wrench in there, but honestly, shout outs to Melarina and the Monkey Prince for filling in literally last minute with no preparation and having a flawlessly run and executed show. Not run, I ran it. It wasn't flawlessly run, but it was flawlessly executed by the guests. And then shout outs to Slambo, and Nick D'Orazio. If he's listening, he's going to appreciate me pronouncing his name correctly and fancily. Really great episode. Check that one out. We do have another one lined up for tomorrow. Big cast here. We've got I Play Games from Omnic Lab. We've got Spider from Overwatch League Network. We've got Taco from Overwatch Score. And big guest here, we've got Doa. Yeah.
What's he from?
That Doa from Overwatch League of the Monty Doa caster combo. That's what I was looking for. Going to be a really good one for sure. Of course, we had an episode of Foul Play for all of the Fantasy Overwatch League fans and enthusiasts. Another really good one. We literally got a standing ovation at the end. So like an IRL standing ovation. You're going to have to listen in to see how and why that happened. And I recorded the second episode of Ever Upward, which is the, I almost said Fantasy Overwatch, the Fantasy NYXL show. It is the NYXL fan show all about NYXL. So check that out. That also...
bunch of jerks over there.
Yeah, definitely. It's actually just a bunch of jerk. It's just me right now. But check that out. All of the shows around the payload, although around the payloads isn't up yet, but it will be this week. But Foul Play, Blackwatch Report, Ever Upward, and Around the Payload are all have their own separate feeds. We're in the transition period right now, with the exception of Blackwatch Report. But the transition period right now where it's going to be posted on your normal High Noon podcast iTunes feed. So if you're listening in iTunes world and podcast world, this will be your probably, it won't be the final one because we'll keep reiterating it and people are going to ask, but this is a warning that you are going to need if you want to listen to Around the Payload and Foul Play and Ever Upward and Blackwatch Report. Go find them in their own respective feeds because we are transitioning them over. This is a not pre-recorded but very important message about your podcast listening experience.
Also not a drill.
It is not a drill. So that's going to be it for the housekeeping. Just keep that in mind. Go subscribe to all of them just in case. You're going to have a buffer period for definitely this week, maybe next week, but it's like in the next couple of weeks we're cutting it off. The HNP
certainly before the start of stage 3, because
definitely,
oddly enough, stage 2 is like halfway over.
Yeah.
I don't know how that happened.
I don't even want to think about that. I don't want to cry in the middle of an episode. You're going to be doing most of the crying this episode, but let's move to what we did last week. Death, anything fun and or exciting happened for you this week?
Yeah, so I did my placement games early. I'm not trying to do the thing where like I barely play Overwatch and expect good things to happen for me. I gave that an honest college try and it did not quite work out for me. So yeah, I did my placement games already and actually placed at a career high again by 2 points. And I won my first game after placements, then lost one. So I'm like in this weird spot. But anyways, right around 3,800. It's a really good placement for me. It puts me, I've got some cushion. So if I lose a couple, I'm not like falling out of Masters already. Because that's always very dejecting, I guess, or uninspiring to drop and literally lose your promotion level. I've got a nice little cushion there. Yeah, you do that all the time. But yeah, so I'm going to be making my GM push. Played a lot of Moira and a good amount of Zen as well. Yeah. So really happy with where the meta is for my hero pool. Is a great time to be a healer. So.
Yeah, and wasn't there something interesting about when you were playing your placement matches with one of the people on your team?
Oh yeah, I mean I don't remember the name. I should have wrote it down. Oh, what was it? Pro Monkey, I think it was. Was a fan of the show, and just told me so, basically. Just kind of gave us a shout out, said he was a big fan. So always appreciate the fan feedback. It's nice to bump into people while we're playing and just really appreciate the love and the support. And yeah, at least it's good advertising for the 4 other people that have no earthly idea who I am in the game when people are saying they know me and asking if it's a show, stuff like that. But really appreciate it, man. It was great to play with you. Good to meet you. And I don't know you from Discord though, so I don't know. You can hang out with us a little more.
Everyone, get in here.
Pro Monkey, get in the Discord, bro.
What I will say is that I think you have come across this a lot more than I have. And I think that it's because our fans are just better at Overwatch than me.
I was going to say, I think that's a really, really good thing for us.
Yeah.
Because I obviously have a higher SR than you do.
By a considerable margin.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think we're, obviously we cater to the competitive crowd or the competitive fans. So hopefully that transfers over. Not all the time, obviously. And there's nothing wrong with being low SR and being a fan of competitive. It's honestly great.
Hopefully it's going to transfer over to me at some point
to be fans. But yeah, I think it's at least a higher percentage of our audience is up in those masters and GM queues, which is good.
Yeah, I think, well, we'll talk a little bit about me. I did my placements as well, and I placed right outside of plat. Not a career high by any stretch of the word, about 200 points off my career high, but in recent history high.
In a good little while. High.
And then I won. I think we were playing. I think me, you, and Taco were playing at the time. And we won a couple in a row, and I got put right into plat, 2,500. And then I proceeded to lose a lot, and I mean a lot. I'm down to I'm in the 2,200s right now, is how bad I'm doing right now. And to address the comment in chat from To the Dirk, I've been playing a lot lately, so I'm just saying.
I think it's Toothed Dirk.
Nope, To the Dirk. Yep, that's all I'm saying. All I'll say is that both of our pronunciations make no sense, so they're both equally likely, I think.
To the Dirk, that's your new name, whether you wanted it to be or not. But that's
you done goofed if you thought you were going to call out the show while we were recording live. Not going to happen. Well, it's going to happen, but you're going to get called out too. I've been playing a lot, and Deathblow and Taco can definitely attest to that. I've got a lot. I probably have more hours played this season than you do.
I was just going to follow it up and say more than me, but a little bit.
Playing a decent amount. I am going. And last thing about us this week, I'm going to be streaming more during the week. So keep an eye out on this Twitch channel, twitch.tv/podcast. I'm going to be streaming and playing my hopefully plat level game soon, but definitely going. Definitely at least gold. Hopefully not. If no, I'm not making any predictions that are going to cause me to uninstall the game. I'm just going to say hopefully plat level games and move right on to, of course, my favorite segment of the show, which I can't find the button for. There we go.
Overwatch Today meme of the week.
That, of course, is the Overwatch Today meme of the week. And this week is brought to us by none other than the San Francisco Shock. Death, you found this one. Do you want to talk about it?
Sure. So this is the San Francisco Shock against the Seoul Dynasty. They were in the Gibraltar spawn room going into the last map. I'm just having a little fun with the sprays. This is something we've seen a little bit a couple times in the Overwatch League, though I do think this was the first one. But the Shock players... Yeah, it was really, really funny. They put the Seoul Dynasty Tiger on the wall, and then they did the red X over it, and then they put a sorry bubble, like a thought bubble or a speech bubble for it. Yeah. Just really, really funny, and I know the crowd got a big kick out of it. It was just a really good, a solid in-game meme, right. A family-friendly meme. I think those are important and a lot of fun.
And then Seoul Dynasty got to take a big kick at the San Francisco Shock, but we'll be talking more about that in a little bit. And we'll move over to news, which I literally just wrote it down, and here's evidence. I need to make a drop for the news segment since we're doing it more often. So I wrote it down. It's going to happen. We'll play with it. If you have any ideas for it, let us know in Discord. Discord.me/podcast. But first, the biggest, let's just get the monkey out of the room. Not actually a monkey or a gorilla or a scientist for that matter. It's Brigitte, new hero on PTR. She's technically a support in the same sense that I guess Symmetra is technically a support. She's like an off-tank, off-support hybrid thing. I don't know. Death, what's the... I know you played her a little bit and tested her out a little bit. What's the lowdown? What's she going to do?
Yeah. So, and by the way, I say Brigitte. I'm not going to say Bridget. I'm not going to be that guy, but I'm also like, I'm just the same way. I'm not going to pronounce it Eichenwalde the entire
you're
time.
You're going to say
like,
Chipsagin forever, even though it's Chipsine.
Right. Like, I'm just going to pronounce the word that's there in the language I speak, and I hope everybody can understand.
Hashtag America.
America, yes, 100%. But yeah, Brigitte is basically the way I'm viewing it right now is an off tank that will sit in the support category. A really, really interesting hero, though, and it was designed to really shake up the metagame. It is very much so an anti-dive character, and what its final form will be, we don't 100% know because it's already caught a wave of nerfs on the PTR. And we don't know exactly what else is going to happen. There
changes, I think. They weren't. Well, they are technically nerfs. I think it was more like, oh crap, we didn't realize this was going to happen, or we didn't want this to happen.
Yeah, I just think there's a couple interactions that need cleaned up. I don't even think she's overly powerful or anything like that. There's just some dangerous interactions, but she's got some really, really cool abilities. One is she's basically, you know, a budget Reinhardt in the sense that she carries this big shield around, and when you right click, she puts it up. She walks slow. She moves with it, but it's not wide. It's no wider than her character frame, so you're not really shielding your teammates. So
she's not
definitely
thick, so.
Yeah, not super thick like Ryan. So yeah, it's you know, a low key shield. It's gonna be good. You can use it to defend your teammates. You just have to be, you know, more accurate with your shielding than you do with like an Orisa or a Reinhardt, something like that. But notably, when she has her shield up, she can left click and like charge in and dash, and like it gets you an instant stun on the character that you hit. And this goes through barriers, and that's the #1 interaction that I think needs to change. Is I don't think it should be stunning Reinhardt out of his shield, because then in the Ryan versus Ryan fights, you're just going to be forced to have a Brigitte, and then you're going to, you know, just stun him and then hammer, and then everybody behind him is just going to drop. So it's just like an easy automatic team wipe as long as you have you know, your 5-second cooldown on Brigitte and your you know, your ultimate on your Reinhardt. So I think it does too much to the Rhine game meta for a character that's meant to counter dive. That's really the only interaction that I think really at this point needs to be changed. But she has this flail, and it's a really interesting hero, and I really do recommend you guys check her out. But she has a flail that she swings that can cleave a little bit. It's, again, like much like Reinhardt can cleave, but on a much smaller scale, just like the shield. It's a lot harder to hit multiple people with it. They have to be in a smaller cone. But yeah, so anytime she hits with that flail, she heals everybody around her. It's a very similar, if not, and herself. It's a very similar range to what Lucio has, but obviously it's not always active. It's only active when you hit somebody. So you have to be brawling to do really any consistent regular healing. She also does have her E ability is a heal effect. I don't know the number on it off the top of my head, but it's unique in the sense that it allows you to overheal, and that that overhealing is transitioned into armor, and that armor lasts as long as the ability is on cooldown. So it's like a 7-second cooldown, I think it is. So that armor will last for 7 seconds. If they're not damaged, it will go away when the ability comes back off of cooldown. So that's a really interesting ability as well. And then her other one is one that just makes some really goofy looking interactions. They're not bad. There's nothing wrong with them. But she like throws her flail out, you know, like knocks people back, and it pushes them. And if you like hit a Winston that's in midair, it like spikes him to the ground like a tennis player. Like it's just really, really goofy and a lot of fun, I think, to see that ability work. But she's an anti-dive hero, so I would expect less dive composition in the next meta for Overwatch League, as we're always going to be tying these conversations back into, you know, how it's going to affect Overwatch League. So I think we're going to see a big rectangle man meta coming up, maybe to close out the entire season, really, because it sometimes takes a little longer than you know, one stage worth of time in Overwatch League to break a hero, and then for them to figure out how to change it. And then they have to like change it in time before the playoffs or before the last stage, stuff like that. So it's going to be interesting to see
OWL like even as playable for quite some time, and then it might take time for the teams to get enough time on her to actually play her.
Yeah, this could not. She may not enter Overwatch League until stage 4. I do expect, obviously, you know, there's another change. The Sombra changes went live, and that's what we're talking about next. But I expect those to be in next stage, obviously, since they're already hit live. But yeah, it's Brigitte is a really interesting character. I do think she's more of an off tank, and I think she's going to be best used by your really, really defensive off tank players. Like I'm thinking like your Mechos, your Cool Mats, you know, your diva players that aren't Poco, and like don't have that crazy aggressive, like she's just a different style, right? Not that Poco can't pick up and learn to play Brigitte,
right?
But just it's a very different style, and I think you're going to immediately see the more defensive diva players kind of pick her up. I could also be completely wrong, and it could just be the support players that are playing it. But I really don't think her healing is enough that you can really rely on it or count on it to be in a team fight, that you're going to want a support player to play this, unless the only circumstance I can see where it might be enough is if you have an Ana, the boost effect of her grenade that increases the healing that gets done might be enough to push it into like actual relevance and let it be part of a healing combo. But I would expect this to be more of an off-tank character.
I could see it as what I initially thought was maybe her and Moira, but the problem is that you have to, like, you're forced into death ball at that point because Moira can't heal at a distance, and Brigitte has to be in combat to heal everyone. She can, like you said, give heals, some direct heals, but it's on a 7-second cooldown. It's a big chunk. You can overheal, but like you're not. I mean, I guess you could have her as a healer and like have a tracer and give the tracer shield, which is pretty good, or a Genji. But I just don't. I don't know. I never even really thought about it like that. I'm literally parsing this out as I'm saying this. But I think it's gonna, like, the level 1 is she enables quad tank or different death ball comps where people are grouped up. That is conducive to the Ana grenade healing in a big way, as well as Moira giving the AoE heal. So if you have, Roadhog, Ryan, Zarya, for instance, death ball that just moves as a big unit with Brigitte and either Ana, maybe even like quad tank or like 3.5 tank, with Brigitte being like the 2.5 support and the 3.5 tank. I don't know. I think there could be some interesting comps, but I definitely do think, even more so than Moira, she's a build around, or she needs to be part of something cohesive. It's not like Zen or Lucio, or even to an extent Mercy, where you can just run them essentially anywhere and have it be decent. I think Brigitte will be almost useless if not built around.
Yeah, I mean, she like almost single-handedly shuts down dive. Like, she just combos tracers to death. Like, you hit the stun and then they die. So it's going to be really interesting to see exactly how it plays out, and it's going to be interesting to see what leaves PTR.
Right.
Because they're, like I said, they're already iterating on it. It's definitely going to be really interesting. But speaking of leaving PTR, I'm just going to grab the segment and move on here. The Sombra changes went live. So now on your main server, again, not on your Overwatch League games, Sombra no longer, the most notable change is that she no longer gains an ultimate charge from people using her hacked health packs. She does gain some other effects. She's a bit more of an assassin now. I think her damage spread is less.
Damage spread
her
is
hack
better.
speed is lower, so she's more efficient at hitting the hacks on the tanks and the players. There's been a lot of mixed reaction to this particular change, and I'm inclined now, after playing it and thinking to myself, like, this doesn't feel even different. Like, it just feels to me, as a mediocre player, it feels really the same to me, except for nerfed in the sense that, like, I don't have EMP near as often anymore. But in the games I've been playing, like, I haven't scrimmed with it or anything like that, where the coordination really kind of makes it shine. Like, I don't think it's broken in solo queue games by any stretch, but it might be a different ball game in 6 stacks or in very high level comp queue, just because the coordination is different. But the hacks are very, very reliable now. There's really no issue there. You can hit them with a pretty good success rate, even if you're kind of like right in front of the person. It's a really fast time. So the thought is that this is probably going to change the metagame up a decent amount. It seems like maybe we're going to see Tracer Sombra in dive, or maybe even Sombra Genji. Like, this could push Tracer out a little bit, but we're going to have to wait and see, because I don't know how many teams are well equipped to just have a top tier Sombra player in the wings. They should be working on it right now, since it's on live servers and they have the ability to play with it.
Maybe that's why Dallas picked up Rascal.
It could be. I mean, there's a lot of teams that I think have players in the wings that can do it really well. Notably, mistakes on Boston actually came in this week and showed playing Sombra. So it's clearly in his hero pool. We might see him over Dreamcast next stage if it does become a Sombra meta. It's going to be really interesting to see how that particular change may impact some of the teams and some of the players here. But yeah, that one's going to be interesting to see. I don't know. Like I said, when I play it, it just feels like very much so the same hero, that can hack a little faster, but just doesn't EMP near as often. So it's almost kind of a wash to me. But if you can use the hack to like drop the shields or to disable a diva as you're entering into a team fight and just burst her down, it's obviously a really, really valuable tool for teams. And I expect them to use it. Whether or not it takes over and dominates the meta or not, it should see some play.
Yeah. Notably, I was watching IDQD's stream as well as Mangachu's stream. Both of them seem to be in consensus that she's broken. Now, I don't know. I think they both genuinely think that she's good. I don't know if they really think she's actually broken, but it seems that that might be the case, from their opinion at least. Now, in playing her, I didn't play a ton of Sombra before the change, and I tried to play a little bit of her, and like I'm just bad with her, so I don't really have a good feel for how different she is. But what I will say is that the single hack is much more reliable than it was. You can hack a single target much more reliably. So if you get the Reinhardt, like it's very good, obviously. I believe they also changed the cooldown and hack speed, so you can hack multiple things more reliably. So you can keep a health pack. You can keep a health pack hacked and also hack them. I don't know. I know way back you couldn't do that. That might have been patched more recently too. But her damage spread is definitely better than it was. It's much easier to do more damage. So
I know translocate lasts longer too.
Translocate also lasts longer. Yep, that is also correct. So they definitely made her more of an assassin, which I think was her intention. So maybe we do see her more often in that tracer role, but
yeah, and the one thing I'll say about that too is I watched IDDQD a lot too, because he's been very vocal about thinking it's very good. So, and I know he's been playing it on stream, so I wanted to see somebody that thinks it's broken going out there and playing with it. And his results didn't tell me it was broken. The only result that told me it might be broken is how often it was in play on the other team as well as on his when he was using it. So the win rate didn't necessarily seem great. It didn't seem super powerful when I'm playing it. But again, this is part of what I'm talking about. Where like the difference between playing in comp at the very highest level, if you got the top 12 SR players in the world in a game together, it is still going to be on a lower level than an Overwatch League match would be, just from a coordination standpoint, everything like that. And that could be the whole game changer, is what it does to the coordination in team play. And that's, more likely what they're referring to when they say it's broken, because they spend more of their time scrimming, I'm assuming, than they do on, PTR playing it before it hits live, and then maybe not live afterwards for,
maybe not IDQD, but
yeah, for the guys that are on the bench, they probably get to, play outside of scrim more than in. But yeah, I don't know. It's going to be really interesting to see. I'm not so much worried that it's going to like ruin the meta or make it super unfun. And I'm the guy that was like, as Sombra was releasing, I was like, no, please don't make a stealthing DPS character. Like but just playing it, I don't get that impression. I'm still a little worried because obviously these pro players are better than me, no better than I do. So I definitely do take their consideration or their opinions into consideration here quite a bit. But yeah, I don't know. I want to see it, right? Like, I don't know if we're talking about a meta that pushes Tracer out, maybe that would be fun to watch. I really don't know. Like, I'm sorry if it's not fun to play for you, but as an Overwatch League fan, if it's not destroying comp and it's fun to watch, sorry guys,
probably
you get paid a good amount of money to play. So if it's maybe a little less fun than you want it to be, can we just say tough and enjoy watching it?
Whose job is fun? Like,
right?
Yours is the answer to that, Mr. Overwatch League player. It's not going to be worse than Mercy. It's not going to be worse than probably even like Quad Tank, although I didn't mind those metas. It's not going to be worse than like pre-Mercy Dive. It's probably going to be similar to that. I think making her better is good. Maybe they need to tweak a couple of things, but like she doesn't seem drastically different to probably 95% of players. And I think that that stat is good enough to, unless it like absolutely breaks open competitive, I think that Blizzard's probably not going to change anything there. So, and they pushed it to live. So granted, I doubt that many people were testing on PTR as Brigitte is getting tested on PTR, because it's like Sombra changes, meh, I'm not even going to bother. Brigitte is like, oh crap, new character, let's go play that. They're probably getting a lot of people playing it. So
yeah, I don't know. It gets people to fire up the PTR better than nerfs and buffs.
Yeah, exactly. But
burfs,
the good old, this is definitely a burf. But I mean, it really not even really a reason to say much more than this. We probably already talked about it too much, considering it's not going to be a thing in Overwatch League until at the earliest Season 3, and we'll keep you updated if anything changes. But moving on, honestly, it'll probably be a better question to ask Thorn Rain and Kyle Wynn, because they're covering contenders, and
their matches are in, it's going to affect them right away.
Yep. So maybe a good topic for Blackwatch Report. But moving on, last piece of news here, we had the Mosaic Esports head coach Stoop is going to be leaving Mosaic and joining an Overwatch League team. No confirmation on what team it is, or even really what role it's going to be in, but
it's happening. Mosaic just said it's happening, so we're assuming they're not lying.
It would be a really weird and probably zero benefit to them thing to lie about, so we're going to assume, we're going to at least talk about it as if it's true. I guess, we'll tell you if it's not true.
Honestly, until we know where he's going.
Right. I mean, there's a couple of places that he could go, though. I mean, there's a bunch of places he could go. I'm thinking
Florida comes to mind. I think Dallas is a little light on the coaching staff too.
Dallas,
otherwise, I don't know a lot.
Probably not San Francisco. Probably not one of the Korean-speaking teams. Probably
it
not.
Could be the Valiant. Maybe the head coach wants to bring in somebody.
15th coach for Valiant.
He agrees with.
Could be.
It seems important for them to have assistant coaches, because when their head coaches leave, they need to have somebody to promote.
Right. Gladiators, although they might be. They might be converting to a Korean roster. I think that's...
Yeah, we'll cover it more when he finds a home. But either way, more coaches in Overwatch League, I think, is still a good thing. So
yeah. But that is going to bring us to the end of the news segment, and we're going to move into the tournament talk.
It's tournament talk.
And once again, I have made the audio match ticker, and we did get the feedback from last week that the music was a little bit too loud. This one was personally tested and approved by Deathblow. So if the music is too loud, I legitimately think it's not too loud. I didn't think it was last week, but I was.
Yeah, I don't think it was. I don't think it was last week too. But 2 people thought so. So we're happy to make some further adjustments. We want everybody to be happy, if at all possible. And there should be no problems. You can hear Blevins very clearly through.
I almost think it's not loud enough, but I am apparently hearing things differently than everyone else, and it's you guys that matter much more than me. So without further ado, let's jump right into the ticker. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Overwatch League audio match ticker for Stage 2, Week 2, brought to you by High Noon Productions. On Wednesday, February 28th, we saw Seoul Dynasty beat Dallas Fuel 3-1, Los Angeles Valiant defeat San Francisco Shock 3-1, and Los Angeles Gladiators taking down the Shanghai Dragons 4-0. On Thursday, March 1st, London Spitfire beat Florida Mayhem 3-1, Philadelphia Fusion eke out a win over Houston Outlaws 3-2, and New York Excelsior steamroll Boston Uprising 4-0. Friday, March 2nd, Boston Uprising in turn come back and dominate the Florida Mayhem 4-0. Seoul Dynasty beat LA Gladiators 3-1, and Los Angeles Valiant beat the Dallas Fuel 3-1. Saturday, March 3rd was Overwatch, starting with London Spitfire beating Philly Fusion 4-0, NYXL defeating Houston Outlaws 4-0, and San Francisco Shock rounding out the week 4-0 against the Shanghai Dragons. Yes, so there's your matches. We got a couple of notes here. And the first one, let's just talk about it. We had rivalry week last week, and well, we know who came out on top of that one. That was me. So, Death, is it panic time in Houston?
No, it's not panic time. I mean, I'm more worried about the loss to the Philadelphia Fusion, and not even so much that we lost to the team that like looked so good in the first week, but like they went back to Shadowburn, and with him came the resurgence of Bad Philly. He came out honestly for more than the second match. They were Bad Philly in full effect for the first two matchups against the Houston Outlaws, the first two maps, I should say. And then they kind of ran into, the bad matchups, if you will, or the bad maps, I should say, for the Houston Outlaws, something that they didn't really have. I mean, they were like weak on King of the Hill, and we were worried about that. But in a different way now, they seem to have some bad maps in this stage, which I think is going to be interesting. And, it might hurt them to the point where they're not really in the stage playoff contention, but I think they've got a decent chance, obviously, to turn it around. But Route 66 has been a brutally bad map for this team so far through the first couple weeks of the stage. We've only seen them on Hollywood the once, but it was against Philly here, and they lost it, and they like couldn't get through the streets phase. Now I don't worry too much when they lose a map on their first time playing it, right? Because it's their first attempt at the strategy that they had, and it's just obviously going to be a little tougher, right? So now they got to see what worked, what didn't, adapt it, and go on. But we've seen more than enough Route 66 now to know that they still haven't completed that map on attack. And it's just clearly, something's going wrong for them there. The one thing I will say that's nice is thankfully those Route 66 maps seem to be front loaded. So hopefully the stage finishes out with a bunch of Gibraltar, which would be good for the team. But either way, the map's going to come again in the stage playoffs if they do get there. So they've got to figure something out for it. And they've got to be very worried about Hollywood going in. And then really in the last map on Ilios that was in the Koth pool the last time around where they were a little weak. Philly is a better dive team than Houston, without a doubt. And Houston has been going to the dive in the Koth matchups, not been trying to run the anti-dive as much. Obviously they get to do that on like Lijiang Control Center and stuff like that when it comes up in the main pool. But just a really, honestly, very probably the best match in Overwatch League to date was Philly versus Houston. So make sure you guys check that one out, even if the result does make me sad a little bit. But as far as losing to New York, honestly, when we did our pick'ems last week, I said I'm picking Houston because I think Ark's going to be out. And when Ark came back, I would have gone and flipped my pick'em. I didn't expect to win that. I did expect to be more competitive. Obviously, they did get 4-0'd. It was a little rough. But the two maps, Kings Row was a phenomenal map between those two teams with a 6-5 score.
To see Libero on Hanzo, yes.
Libero on Hanzo, and just huge plays. Like the pin from Muma on Jonak when he was transing, the way he lined it up and hit the wall next to the gap and like spun his character so that way he like ejected Jonak directly down into the pit. It was just a really, really high level play from Muma there, and a lot of high level plays back and forth. And then I thought the Lijiang Tower Koth map was really well contested by both teams as well, but it did end up being a 4-0 score. Houston did nothing on Volskaya, and notably, Clockwork was in, and we could talk about him all we want until we're blue in the face, but nobody did anything. So I'm not going to focus on what anybody on Houston might have done wrong. But I just want to give credit to Ark and, oh my God, the other support.
Jonak.
Oh yeah, Jonak. They just had phenomenal CC on Muma as they were trying to attack into Volskaya. It was absolutely brutal. They just shut Muma down, and I think if you can shut Muma down, that's your answer to how to handle the Houston Outlaws. I do think he's kind of their linchpin. Whether he's their best player or not, a lot of people would argue yes. I think he's in the MVP conversation for the entire league so far. So you have to consider him one of, if not the best. So yeah, it's just going to be interesting to see how this team rebounds. This is the first time they've been 4-0'd in Overwatch League. I know they mentioned that in their press conferences after the fact. So it's going to be, interesting to see how they rebound, what they look like this coming week. Obviously, things get easier than playing against the best team in the league going
Way
forward,
easier.
but the Valiant look pretty good. Coming off their new coaching system, their DPS switch up, they look good. So they're on the horizon. Am I panicking? No, not at all, because we had a very front-loaded schedule at this stage. We're still, we're 50-50 on the stage, and we've got, after the Valiant, we've got like,
Seoul.
it's like Shanghai, LA. There's like only Seoul left, right? That's actually
Are
a
you even
difficult
playing?
matchup.
I don't even know who you're not playing this.
The team we don't play this stage is the Dallas Fuel.
Oh, okay.
So everybody else
So
is
you've got
who we
Seoul
have
in
left.
week 5, and then like I guess week 4. Yeah, you've got
next
an
week is the
easier
Valiant,
schedule.
and like week 4 is kind of a little on the easier side. I mean, these teams they're showing us right now in Overwatch League that these teams are very, very close. But I will obviously take a Gladiators San Francisco Shock week in week 4, and then we've got the Florida Mayhem to close out next week, and then in Shanghai in week 5 to go with Seoul. So there's a lot of matches here that are very winnable, even if the Outlaws are struggling and having a down stage, which it didn't look like after the first week, and we have to admit maybe this week. But we're just not there yet, right? Like I'm never going to panic for any team, whether it's my team or any other team, if they lose to the team that's the best in the league at the time. It's just nothing to overly panic about, as long as they rebound and come back strong.
You're saying when the New York Excelsior beat the Shanghai Dragons that you're not going to be panicking for Shanghai Dragons? Is that what you're saying?
That match will not make me panic in any way, shape, or form.
Because you've already been panicking the whole time.
Right, because, I mean, what are you going to do? Panic like, oh, no, I'm worried that they're going to be a tire fire. Like, they're already a tire fire. So let's just move on. But, yeah, I mean, it was unfortunate. Obviously, nobody wants to see their team get 4-0'd. If nobody that's playing on the teams want to get 4-0'd. But as long as they rebound and come back from it, they just need to, like, get Jake some help, right? Because we now know he can play the Tracer at a decent level, right? But he can't 1v1 SBBs. He can't 1v1 the elite Tracers in the league. He's been playing it for like a month, right? These guys have been playing it for since the game released or in beta. So he's at a disadvantage there. So he's going to need some help, whether that comes from the Cool Mad position, the Muma position, one of the support players. Boink can help him out a lot as well. It's going to be interesting to see how they handle that going forward, but they need to win one of their 1v1s and then go and help Jake. And he's just got to hold his own until the help gets there, right? That's kind of his role on the Tracer right now. And that's adequate to me when you have a player the skill level of Linkser, when you have tanks like Muma and Cool Matt. That is a perfectly acceptable strategy. But when it doesn't work, it's going to look like this. It might look a little rough because everybody else was tied up in their 1v1s, and then they were losing that one decidedly. Right. Or not taking that 1v1, to be perfectly honest with you. There was a lot of times the Tracers weren't fighting each other in that matchup.
Right, and that was one other thing I was going to mention about NYXL is that SPB kind of changed up his style of Tracer play. He was not playing the lockdown Tracer, which makes sense. At first I was like, man, why is SPB doing this? And then I thought it out, and it's like, okay, stage 1, played the lockdown Tracer, win the Tracer battle, which he's going to because he's the best Tracer in the world. Okay, what does that actually do? Well, what it does is it allows the supports to be uncontested, which is normally like an okay thing, but maybe not necessarily a great thing, because you're basically trading the damage and the damage that your Tracer is going to cause to their backline for the damage that your supports are going to do, which at a level 1 is like, well, that's not really a good trade, right? It's like, oh, but wait, you have DPS, aka DPS Jonak, who is technically a support, but he's basically a DPS. So that opens him up to do damage. But stage 2, especially when in stage 1, especially when Jonak is being damage boosted by Arc with as Zenyatta. Now in stage 2, it's like they're not doing that, so they're trading the security of the security that the lockdown Tracer provides for more damage from SBB. So it's very interesting to see that shift happen, and I'm hoping, as an NYXL fan, I'm hoping that they can just seamlessly transition between the two, maybe even mid-match and mid-game. Like maybe he plays lockdown at some point and not at other points.
Yeah, because I think the counter there was like Houston was taking these wide flanks, right? Because it was really hard to evaluate like how Clockwork was doing on Volskaya and things like that.
It's hard
Because
to do anything on Volskaya because they just got dumpstered.
well, but we didn't also get like camera angles that were telling us where Clockwork was. We were following SBB a good amount, but he was in these fights with Linkser, and there was no dive to like finish off SBB. When like there was one fight, Linkser put SBB to like sub 10 HP like 3 times. And like there was no tracer blink in to finish him off and melee him or something like that. It just wasn't there. The follow-up wasn't there. So I'm guessing, and I would have to watch really, really closely. I haven't had the time to yet. Is that Clockwork and Jake, when he was on the tracer, were taking these really wide flanks, expecting the SBB to be hunting them for the 1v1. And SBB is like, nope, don't care. So you're just taking yourself out of the fight. You're over there, fighting their Winston or whoever you happen to stumble upon. And then I'm over here doing work. So it was a lot of, really good play by New York. Obviously, we never expect New York to play a bad match at this point. They really haven't done it yet. So they're a really consistent team. And, like I said, I wanted it to be closer, but at the end of the day, it was one of the closest 4-0s we've seen in Overwatch.
That I will give you. It was, at least at points it was.
Yeah, on the back of, if nothing else, on the back of that incredible Kings Row map. That was just so entertaining. But yeah, no panic here from a Houston fan. And I think you would generally agree with that in just the conversations we've had and looking at some of the fan pick numbers and stuff, even though they were bugged before.
It was funny when we were doing up the notes. We look at the fan pick rates on highnoonpick'em.com, and it only had Houston as a 60%. It only had 60% of the fans picking Houston to win against Florida. We're like. But against
Valiant, it was like 20% higher. It just made no sense. It was really weird. Whatsoever. It was bugged, and we got it. I gave the guy a heads up. He fixed it, and now we can, have good numbers when we go through the previews here.
Right. One last thing I will say about New York is that we didn't see Pine, and that was because Pine tweeted or said somewhere that he wasn't feeling well, or I don't know if he said he was sick or he just wasn't feeling well, or he took a week off, basically.
All I know is he talked a lot of smack in those preview videos, which were hilarious and awesome, by the way. I loved the hype videos.
Oh, it was great
those
because
beforehand.
It was great because Houston was like, man, this is going to be tough. And Jake was like, SBB, I know you're better than me at Tracer, but I'm not afraid. And like Raucus is like, these guys are really great, but we're super excited to play them. And SBB and Pine are just like, spam J lol K in chat. We're gonna crush them. We're better. Raucus has really good hair. It's just complete BM from New York, which was great.
Honestly, it was great. I loved every aspect of it. Even as somebody that roots for the other team, like it was so in the right spirit. It was like the perfect BM smack talk tone, everything.
Right.
It was
like the really tactical crouch.
It was 100%. I'm buying that. And even though they were talking about my team, it was just great. I had a huge smile on my face the whole time.
Bye.
I love it. I love that those teams seem to respect each other enough to get that rivalry going a little bit, even if New York was showing it by not showing respect.
Right.
In a way, they don't do that against Florida.
You know what I mean? If we see that same reaction come out of Florida, though, I don't think they don't do that interview for sure. Like Overwatch League doesn't run that interview. That would be silly. But if they did for whatever reason, the tone should be different there. I hope it's different there because it's just I'm just in the background going no. But definitely great, and I really like that type of thing because that's like what you see in sports. It's not bad to be confident. Not at all. Honestly, I want to see more confidence because I feel like there's too much people tiptoe around it and don't like New York is good and they know it and they say it. Good. Be that way, please. Don't tiptoe around it and give the PR answer for everything. Oh, well, Houston's a great team and we expect a really great match of Overwatch. It's okay, no one wants to hear that. Literally no one except for the owners of the organization want to hear that answer ever. So if you're listening as an Overwatch League player or person asked about Overwatch League, giving the corporate answer is what literally only one person wants to hear. And that's the PR person for your organization.
And at this point, New York's probably the only team that's earned the right to be that way. So like, you do need to earn it. Like, I don't just want to see like teams jump up and do it for no reason. It's not, they won't like look, I don't know. There won't be anything wrong with it. They'll just look weird and like bad, and it won't play well unless you kind of earn the right. And New York's definitely
you could definitely turn into it. Like you can really like steer into it, like being super confident even if you're bad. It doesn't look as good as being super confident and being good,
right? And it can be more about the matchup too. Like you could just be like disrespecting one team and it turns out okay.
The long and short of it and the synopsis of our point here is we want to see more trash talk is what we're like.
Yes,
good mannered trash talk. There's some, well, I'm not even going to go into
it. If you want to know what that looks like, go watch that video.
Yeah. Go watch it.
That was perfect.
Sure. But that is going to bring us to our break for the episode. We will be back in 30 seconds or something. I don't know, but we will be back in just a little bit. Hey guys, Future Blevins here, and I just want to let you know that we did hit our Patreon goal. Like I mentioned before, we're going to be having a 12-hour stream, but we need your help to plan it and get it all set up so it's the best possible thing for you. So head over to discord.me/highnoonpodcast to let us know what you think should be done for the show. It's going to be in the show suggestions text channel. And as always, if you are not a patron already and you want to be, you can go to patreon.com/highnoonpodcast. Thanks, and enjoy the rest of the show. All right, everyone. Hope you enjoyed that little promo or whatever I decided to put in there. But let's move right along and go to the next segment, which, of course, is...
Oh, let's break it. Yeah!
We're going to break down the matches for this week, which is week 3 of Stage 2, I think. Yeah, definitely. Yep. Week 3, Stage 2 of Overwatch League. And we will start off with a... I'll just say it.
Second match sleeper. Of Wednesday.
Yeah, we're going to start Resident Sleeper here. We've got Seoul Dynasty versus Shanghai Dragons. We've both got the 4-0 in favor of Seoul, and we've got the patented 100% pick rate for Seoul here. And I think it's actually accurate.
Are you sure, Blevins? Because you had a 100% in favor of Shanghai pick rate last week.
I did, but Shanghai lost their privilege. Florida may still have it, but Shanghai...
4-0 from both of us, 100% for the fans. No need to analyze this one. Although it was close last time, but don't expect it.
I don't expect it to be close. I'm not even going to consider Shanghai until they get their... I'm not going to even consider Shanghai until they get their new players, and I'm also probably still not going to consider them until I see them play for at least a week or two. So... no go on Shanghai. We will move right along. Match 2 of Wednesday, we've got San Francisco Shock versus Dallas Fuel. Shock have 5 maps. Fuel have 7 to prepare for, but we've both got Dallas winning here. We've got our strategically placed 3-0. Yes. 88% of the fans have Dallas here. Any analysis on this one?
Yeah, we're both going with the Cowards 3-0. For what it's worth, looking at my point totals gained from Pick'em last week, it's the right thing to do. So you guys might want to start using the 3-0 a little bit. But yeah, this one's going to be, I think this one's going to be interesting, right? It's kind of like confirmation of a placement that I think we already know. Like I am much more bullish on the Dallas Fuel at the moment than I am on the San Francisco Shock. San Francisco has a lot of difficulty putting it together well enough to win. They have decent performances. They have players who are playing well. It's just they're not finishing anything. They're not pulling together as a team. They're not, completing any fights here and getting near enough wins to pick them. Dallas Fuel fans, like I said on Foul Play, they all wanted to wake up from a nightmare this week and just be like, oh, everything's perfect now. It's totally, we just beat Seoul. We just beat LA. And okay, maybe those are like 2 in the playoffs decidedly teams. And you're not quite built all the way back up there to compete with them. That's not the case with the San Francisco Shock. That is right above Florida on my power ranks, and they are, Dallas is squarely above them. So I do expect Dallas to win here. One thing I will say though, is I'm not sure that the Effect AKM plan is like awesome as AKM is on Soldier. I'm not sold that they don't want to be playing affect Rascal and diving. I think XQC has a lot of experience with dive. I think Cust has a lot of experience with dive. Rascal does for sure. Effect played it before he joined the Dallas Fuel. So I just think they've got to at least try this, right? And especially in matchups like this against the San Francisco Shock, where you can reasonably expect to win. And you can run something you haven't run before, but they should definitely be practicing it. I don't know. I just want to see that from them to really buy into them becoming a serious playoff contender. I think that's definitely a tool you need to show at least a little bit. You don't have to be great at it. Like we see Houston not be the best dive team in the world and still be a solid, top end team. But Dallas has not shown the ability to do it at all. And that's something I want to see from them. Hopefully we see that this week. The only thing the Shock have going for them is that they have 2 less maps in the week to prepare for than Dallas. But I don't think that makes up. Yeah.
I don't think it does either. The only thing that I could see San Francisco maybe pulling ahead here is if Fuel collapses in on itself and something crazy happens. We saw some inner turmoils going on with Dallas in game, with Effect being not going into the dugout essentially with the team and being outside the team, still communicating with the team. I mean, on the one hand, he wanted to practice his aim, or at least that's the canned answer he gave, and was still communicating with the team. That's fine. It's still it's not nothing.
It worries me. We talked about what's going to happen to this team when they start to lose, and I think this is a concern here. Effect is very tilty, and when he used to play, I think it was Meta Athena was his old team. He used to be a substitute for them, and I really wonder if it was because mechanically he was there, but mentally and attitude wise, he just wasn't really the best teammate. And listen. He could have asked the coach. There could be nothing wrong here, right? He could have said, hey, Kai, I really want to work on my aim. Can I just stay here and do it on stage, and I'll keep my headset on and talk to you guys there? And he might have said, fine, go for it, by all means. And if that's the case, great, there's no issues. But if
I don't even think it's no issues.
It should have been it's no issues. Effect didn't do anything wrong is what I'm trying to say. But I think Kai should have been aware that that's a bad look for a team that has teamwork issues, coordination problems. They need to appear in all ways as a united front, right?
Not even appear, because
full team.
At the end of the day, who cares what the fans think about that aspect of it, in game? It's more hey, be there for your team. Okay, I need to work on aim issues. How much is that actually going to help you in the moment? Maybe it will. And to be fair, I didn't think he was playing poorly at any point during the match. So I think he's overly hard on himself. And at the end of the day, I would never fly with me as a coach. I would have walked out onto the stage and grabbed him by the ear like a little kid and pulled him back into the locker room if I had to. I think that's I think that's just telling, regardless of okay, let's assume that the best case scenario happened. He asked Kai, hey, can I do this? Kai says yes. He's still on comms. He's still calm, cool, and collected. It's still a bad look. If all that's true, it's still a bad look. You're not coming together as a team. You're, arguably star player is not stepping up as a leader, which is a bad thing. It seems kind of like AKM is coming in and taking over the team from a leadership standpoint, and also from in some ways a play standpoint, which is fine for him, but it doesn't look good for it does not look good for Effect, even if the Dallas Fuel is doing better because of it. I think that it's a bigger issue than I think people really made light. For
anybody that thinks Blevins is blowing it out of proportion, because there's a lot of people that think that, I'll guarantee you, it is, because I had that conversation with people earlier. But it does matter, okay? And I'm going to use this example, and it's diminished in esports and in Overwatch League in particular, right? But when I was in Little Loop football, right, we used to, our head coach was like a drill sergeant about pregame warm-ups and drills and everything like that. And we used to, when we counted off our reps and our warm-ups and our stretches and stuff like that, we sounded like a military unit, okay? It was crisp, it was clean. When we did our lap around the field, our left foot's hit at the same time as everybody else, and we would literally be warming up, and if we'd steal a glance sideways, which our coach would absolutely scream at us if he caught us doing, the entire other team is looking at us like we have 3 heads, what do you see this?
Yeah.
This is who we're playing against. It's a mental game, and it absolutely affects things. Less so in Overwatch League. I totally get it. But there were teams in football.
It's less so now,
but
does it need to not be less so? Like
right, and it's not nothing either. You can definitely, create and maybe not intimidate them the same way we were able to in football, right?
I think you honestly could. Like, think about how Overwatch
but it's
League
harder
is,
to have the opportunity to
it's harder right
people
now
on your way out with your
it's harder right now because everyone's in the same facility, everyone's basically living in the same place, and everything's taking place in the same place. Like, it's hard to differentiate yourself. Like, we see all the players are friends essentially, like, or at least like at a macro level, all the players are friends because everyone lives in the same place. Basically, everyone's going to the same college is what it is. Like, same age, same like type of scenario, same type of living conditions. Like, everyone's going to the same college right now. Like, you're not going to be that different. But I think once we see, I mean, this might not be for multiple seasons, but I think once we see like the break off geographically, like, we could see that. Like, and also once we start to see, I think definitely once we see the first wave of like players retiring because they're at the end of their primes, like, I think, and we start to see those players shift into coaching roles. Like, if we see Effect be a coach like in 5 years or whatever, like, maybe he runs a tight ship. What's that?
that poor team, because I don't think he'd run a tight ship.
Okay, but like you get what I'm saying though, right?
Yeah.
Like, like, I think right now, like, the players, like, maybe I think
you're right though. There's a lot of teams missing that aspect of it. That that machine. You just become a machine and just be a cog in it and just do what you're supposed to be doing at all times. And that's never visually separating, or physically and visually separating yourself from the entire rest of your team to do something off on your own. To me, that's never okay. That would never fly with me as a coach. I get it. Not everybody has the same coaching style. Not every coaching style works for the same teams, but it begs the question is, how is this team going to handle adversity going forward? Yeah. Especially when you got XQC more worried about how the casters were, casting the games than he was about the outcome. He was talking about like how bad the Valiant tank players were at times and things like that. Just some weird things. And it was a weird week from Dallas, but luckily for them, they do have a really solid get right week in front of them this week. Right. And I think they're going to be able to get this win in particular and then probably the next one.
Right. And also, luckily for them, one of their, at the very least, former in-game leaders, and Taimu doesn't have a whole controversy. Oh, okay. We're not getting into that. Yeah. I'm not touching that thing with a 10-foot pole, but there is some stuff going on with Taimu. Just look at Twitter if you want to find it out. I'm seriously not touching that with a 10-foot pole. I know is what I'm saying to that. Let's move on. That got a lot more than I was expecting it to, but I'm not upset about it. Last match of Wednesday is going to be the Battle for LA Valiant versus LA Gladiators. We've both got Valiant winning. I picked the Cowards 3-0. The fans, 93% of the fans have Valiant here. Any sort of play here for the Gladiators? I know you're more bullish on them than anyone else.
This was 3-2 in favor of the Los Angeles. This was 3-2 in favor of the Valiant the last time it came around.
Yeah,
I think these teams match up better specifically against one another. Like, this could be very well like something that I'm thinking might be the case for like Philly and Houston, is that Philly just like matches up with stuff. It's like the way their tanks play against our tanks. Like, yes, our tanks are better, but you have to sit down and play against those people, right? And they just seem to like maybe have our number a little bit. So that's something I think might be the case here, where the Gladiators just have something on the Valiant, but they're a little bit of a different team here. I do really like what the Gladiators are doing. They're going to continue to improve. Fissure has been just a massive difference for this team. I think that locks them into map wins on a lot of different points. I think it kind of takes away their really awful what was it? Not hybrid, but I think it was payload or something. They just had like an awful win rate on one of the game modes. I think that's kind of subsided a little bit. I think the Gladiators are a much more stable team than they were in the first stage because of Fissure. Just not sure that they're overall like a much better compared to their opponents and the other teams in the league as a result. So I'm going to take the 3-1 because I do feel very confident the Gladiators are going to be able to take a map. They absolutely have a chance in this one here.
They do.
If you're desperate for a flip, you can flip this one because it's going to be a heavy Valiant pick.
Yeah, this is definitely a decent flip here.
I'm just back in the top 15, so I'm not going to be making a pick like that.
Right. You don't need a flip here. This was a close match before in stage 1, and I mean it's unarguable that Gladiators has upgraded with Fissure, but in a way, Valiant have picked up a new DPS player in Kareev, who's been doing very well. It's just like it doesn't seem like it's going to be close, but I agree with you. I don't necessarily agree with you that this matchup is one where Gladiators have their number, but I do agree that like there are certain teams that just are good against other teams, even if on paper those teams shouldn't be close.
Yeah, and have their numbers wrong. Like, I'm not trying to say like the Gladiators should win this one, but they just are going to play the Valiant, I think, better than they should based off their standings and things like that. So this will be the test for that, right? Because if it happens 2 times in a row, like we're gonna have to really consider it probable, right? Like if this ends 3-2 in either direction, I don't even care if the Gladiators lose it. If it's 3-2, we've got to say the Gladiators have something on the Valiant. Like they have a plan that works for them. They just need a little something to push it over the.
Right. I mean, and if Gladiators win this, well, they're not going to win against Spitfire, though they have before. So I don't know. It's arguable that they won in the preseason. I don't know if Gladiators win this, they could really put something together here, and potentially have an upward trending team. There's some leaks out there that we're not going to go into because it's about as unconfirmed as possible and unreliable as possible, but they might be getting some other upgrades as well. But let's move forward to Thursday. We've got Philly Fusion versus Seoul Dynasty. We're both taking Seoul here, and 93% of the fans are also taking Seoul. You've got Seoul in 5. I'm cowardly picking Seoul 3-0 here.
It's a little safer. I just think, I mean, Philly's in this good-bad situation again, and I'm thinking because they showed so much bad last week when they went back to Shadowburn, we're going to see closer to the week 1's Philly, as they're likely to go back to EQO, or they should go back to EQO after what we saw last week. Just the ability to support Carpe needs to be there, and EQO seemed to do better at that role in particular. So I just think the good Philly is likely to show up here again. I'm not sure that we're going to see a ton of bad Philly. And I think we might end up after this week. There's a very good chance we're talking about Philadelphia as the team to beat in the stage. Because they have 2 brutal matchups this week, but if they play like they did in week 1, they can win both of them.
They sure can. This has been the story of Philly. They can both win and also both lose to any team in the league.
I said what I just said, and I picked them to lose both matchups, but I won't be surprised if I get both of them wrong.
I'm going to be upset if they win both, but
yes,
I won't be surprised because
it's happened before.
EQO has never lost a map. We'll say that.
And New York has never beaten Philadelphia.
That is also true. That is also a true statement. New York has never beaten Philly. And also Philly never lost in the preseason. Okay, they didn't play. I'm done making these technically true statements. I think this is probably this is another good flip here. 93% in favor of Seoul is probably high.
Listen, I want to point out, though, Seoul looks much better. They look massively improved.
They look real
Miro
good.
Has been awakened this stage so far. He looked like a different player.
He was saving his ult for stage 2.
Yeah, he definitely held on to the Primal Rage, and he has popped it now. He is playing very, very well. I still want to see more impact from the support backline for Seoul, and that's what I think gives Philly this opportunity. I thought Toby had a bit of they're not having bad weeks anymore like they did at times in stage 1, but they're not popping off, and they're not looking like the absolute strength of this team, which is what they've been entirely before Overwatch League. It was like, well, Lunatic has just got the best supports in the world, so you've got that to deal with. And then now I don't know that that's what we're seeing from them right now. And I don't know if it's a problem with them or if the rest of the league is caught up. I haven't figured that out yet. But if we can get old school Jaehong and Toby to show up and carry again, you'll probably be more closer to accurate with your 3-0 than I am with my 3.
Yeah, but it's still like, even though we're we're basically halfway through stage 2. Philly is still at an unknown, having only seen two matches of EQO. So, and it's funny because in stage 4 they're going to be unknown again because they're going to have Sato potentially.
Yeah.
So
they're like literally all season going to be a crapshoot, and I feel like I'm never going to pick them, and they're always going to win at least one match. Like I'm just constantly going to be wrong.
You're guaranteed to be wrong unless you're just extremely lucky.
Or you just pick them one way every single time, and then you'll be right, probably 60. If you pick them to win every time, you'll be right probably 65% of the time. Yeah. Maybe that's the thing to do. Just never pick them to lose, ever, under any circumstance. I'm not going to do it, but that might be strategically the best way to go about it.
I don't know if that's correct. I mean, you're probably favored, but you're probably favored over...
I'm just saying I think it would work out better than what's going to happen with me trying to accurately.
For you, yes. For you,
yes.
I don't think that's a viable... For those of you listening who are trying to win your pick'em leagues, I don't think that's viable. At least not this week. I think you can expect a 50-50 here because no one's ever beating New York again. New York's literally never going to lose for the rest of the time. But let's move on. We've got Houston Outlaws versus LA Valiant. You've got Houston winning in 5 here. I'm picking my Cowards Valiant at 3-0. Houston is picked by 75% of the fans this week. Death. You're not super confident in Houston versus Valiant, but you've got them winning.
Yeah, I mean, Hollywood and Big Earls are in the map pool, and that's exactly what we saw against Philadelphia. And I think, obviously, Volskaya's in the pool as well. Like, this is, in my opinion, probably as bad as the map pool gets for the Houston Outlaws. And the Valiant aren't a team that I think are, like, they're very close to each other. They might be right next to each other in like power rankings and where they're at. So this has potential to be very, very close. I'm just not sold on Hollywood. Like if I'd seen more Hollywood and we knew it was a bad map like Route 66, I might flip this one the opposite direction, to be perfectly honest with you. But again, it's more about map pool. I do still think Houston is, decidedly a better overall team. I think their front line, the tanks are, as good as Fate and Envy have been. I think they're going to have their hands full this week. And it's just going to be a matter of can they contain soon, right? Can, the combination of Raucus, Jake, and Linkser, whoever their job it is, depending on the composition or whatever at the time, can they hold soon in check? And then Kareev is still getting comfortable playing well, but I just think that's not who I would target. I don't think. Right. I would probably go after Soon and try to unseat him. But we'll have to wait and see exactly, what happens here. I do expect a very close match. I won't be surprised no matter what direction this one goes. Obviously, when you're a team like Houston who's done so well, and then you hit a lull and you got that, that first 0-4 and, your first 0-2 week in a little while since week 1 of the season period. And they were like, it almost doesn't count because they were like doing crazy substitution strats and all these things. So this is, there's always the potential for a bit of a continuation, I should say. We talked a lot about get right weeks, right? They have a get right match this week, but not a full get right week, as this one's going to be a little tough. So who knows? This one is very, very up in the air. And I don't think it should be, as far as the fans are concerned, I don't think it should be one-sided necessarily. So as much as I hate to say it, with the fans having Houston 75%, it would be a decent opportunity to flip. Yeah. And the way I look at the map pool, I mean, it's very much so about map pool. But both teams have 6 to prepare for on the week, so there's not a lot of discrepancy there.
I think like the map pool definitely is going to be dicey for Houston, but I do agree with you. Soon is going to be a big picture here. I think it's really going to depend on how Houston decides to counteract Soon. I imagine they're going to have a somewhat similar game plan to what they did against Sabiobi, and they tried that last week. It didn't work. So I think if it's gonna be tough because like they can try to run the same thing and just hope that Soon is worse than Sabiobi, which is the case, but they might just game plan differently than NYXL, which I think is probably the way to do it. Like maybe they just don't.
I think Soon is one of 2 things here. Sorry to cut you off. Yeah. I just think he's either the best tracer that they can contain, right?
Right.
Or the worst tracer that they can't.
Right.
Like, you know,
Yeah.
he's just right on that edge, and I'm not sure which it is yet because we haven't seen him play yet. And that's kind of the beauty of the wait here. As much as we wanted to see it earlier, you know, it's coming around at a right time. And much like the Valiant week last week, where they were kind of on the decline going against the Fuel, who were on the incline, they're kind of the team on the incline now, but coming from the bottom, meeting the team that's above them and maybe coming down a little bit. I don't know. It's definitely a bit of a placement match. I think either way at the end of it, given the way the map pool looks, like if Houston loses, they'll still be ahead of LA in my power rankings going forward. But it would be very, very close, and we'd be like 1 week away from flipping it if the results, you know, made it look that way.
Where do you keep them above them if it's just another 4-0 stomp?
Like if the Valiant 4-0 Houston? Probably not. I would say a 4-0 would be decisive enough that you'd probably flip it in the power ranks.
Yeah, I honestly do think it's close. I'm picking the flip here. I do need to make up some points here with my last week of throwing. I'm still on the front page, but I'm now no longer in the top 3.
Not even above me anymore.
No, or technically, A. Smith and I technically are tied for points. I mean, we are tied for points. He's technically ahead of me for some reason. But let's move on. We've got Boston Uprising versus Shanghai Dragons. We've got them. We got Boston 4-0 here. 98% of the 2% of the fans still believe in Shanghai. I am not one of those 2%. Is there? I'm just gonna say it. There's no more talking point here for Shanghai until they get new players. Until I guess they face Florida, and even then I still think there's not much to talk about unless they have their new players. So
yeah, I mean, Florida's the only team they got a chance against, and that's because we've seen Florida just collapse and not show up. But it does usually take some pressure to like force Florida out to not show up and just get clapped. But I mean, if you have to know, I mean, Boston, we're talking about just played against Florida, right? Who we're talking about is the only team Shanghai has a chance against, and it was a 4-0 easy clap for Boston. So they might be in a little trouble this stage, but
not here.
Not here. Yeah. Nobody's in this much trouble, but Shanghai themselves.
Nope. Exactly. Moving on to Friday, we've got London Spitfire versus Boston. So Boston playing the back-to-back, and that's definitely not going to help them. We both have London here at the Cowards 3-0. 96% of the fans have London here. Only thing I think that's worth noting here is that Boston has beat London before, and we've seen Boston be really good in Stage 1. We haven't seen it yet in Stage 2, and I mean, I think it still can happen. I don't think it's going to happen here, but it could happen. And we kind of saw it really like Boston had already started to look good before they played London last stage, but like it really cemented Boston as a top tier discussion team when they beat London in Stage 1. So I wouldn't flip it here, but Death, is there anything else like
what I want to say about this one is London has 8 maps this week, and they have been known already to split their team in 2. Okay, and play, you know, obviously they don't have the full 12 in-house anymore after a couple of trades, but I think we can reasonably expect Hago and Closer, and then Nuss and Badosin to be split up. I think we're going to see a little bit more division than that. We'll probably see one of the DPS players come in. Hopefully it's not Birdring that sits for my fantasy teams again. But, you know, other than that, that's Boston's chance here, is if it's Hagopin instead of Badosin, that's where Boston has the opportunity. But I do expect the A team, so assuming they agree with me on the A team, to be in this Boston matchup, because the next one for London is LA. And just a quick look at the standings, I think will help them decide which one gets the A team, which one gets the quote-unquote B.
Yeah, I'm not expecting much out of Boston here, but again, like I do expect Boston to at least potentially turn it back up or figure. I don't think it's them not turning it up. I think it's them not finding their feet in this stage and in this meta, but I think that they still can. I just don't think it's going to happen here.
We've seen some of the improvement, but it wasn't really until week 4 and 5 that we all were forced to buy into Boston. But it was the London win that made us all buy in the end.
Forced everyone. There were people who bought in earlier, but you were forced to buy it when.
You had no way to deny it anymore.
Right. Moving on, we've got NYXL versus Philadelphia Fusion. You've got the Cowards 3-0 here, and I can't jinx it here, man. I've got New York at 3-2. 95% of fans are picking New York here. I mean, I feel like we talked ad nauseum about good Philly, bad Philly, like over the past, I don't know, 18 weeks since the beginning of the season. And I think, so I talked about this on Ever Upward show. I think that if bad Philly comes up, it's going to be an easy, if I knew that bad Philly was going to show up, I would pick it 5-0 for New York. But I think good Philly versus full staff New York, which we have no reason to believe that it's not going to be full staff with Arc coming back and potentially Arc being in even better shape. But full staff New York, I think New York still wins that. I just think that they've improved more since last time they played Philly. They know kind of what Philly's going to be doing. I mean, EQO is really, I guess, the wild card potentially, but there is film on EQO. The EQO-lizer for sure. The EQO-lizer, I think is the best way to do it. There is going to be film. There is some film on him, and if he plays, what could be interesting here, and what could potentially throw a wrench into New York's plan here, is if Shadowburn plays against plays the first match. Why did I miss who they're playing? Against Seoul. If Shadowburn plays against Seoul and then they run EQO against New York, that could potentially throw a wrench in it, because it's like there's already not a lot of film on EQO.
Well, there's also this. I've planned an interview with every single member of the Philadelphia Fusion for this week
to get the bump up.
They will all be playing before Friday, so yeah, it's that's definitely going to hurt you. But yeah, in all honesty, I mean, we're talking about picks here, right? And I'm not. If like you said, a full strength New York, you don't pick against, right? There would have to be 4 maps for. I'm trying to think of like the second, like Seoul. There'd have to be 4 maps for Seoul on the week versus 8 maps for New York on the week. New York was playing back. Like the circumstances would have to be what would make me.
I think Seoul versus New York is a close one for sure, but I still don't. It's
close, but I'm still picking New York, right?
Yeah.
It's just they're the best team in the league right now, hands down. When they're all together, when they're all there, we've seen them lose once to this team, but I'm not predicting it to happen again. It's one of those things. Though I will say though, Seoul did name Philly as the team to beat this stage. And I'm guessing they'd seen EQO in their scrims a little bit to see that team.
Yeah.
So there's a very good chance Philly is the team to beat in this stage. And we won't know that, I think, until we see this match. But if Philly wins here, I'm back to them being the number 1 team for the stage.
Yeah, honestly, I think if Philly wins against Seoul with EQO, like I'm still picking New York, but I think it will be a slaughter.
I would change it to a 3-2. Yeah, I would change it to your 3-2 instead of my 3-0. But it's so hard to have any faith in Philly after what we saw last week. So
to ever have faith in them, because it's like, oh well, we lost our coin flip. Bad Philly showed up and we're done here. Yeah. But we have not. It's possible that the great EQO-lizer is the antidote to bad Philly. We don't know. There's just not enough data on him. But we are going to potentially get some more this week. Moving on, last match on Friday, Florida Mayhem versus Houston Outlaws. We both have Houston 4-0ing here. 95% of the fans have Houston, though when we looked at it originally, it said only 60%. It was so funny. It was really funny. Unfortunately, I guess, well, I don't know, depending on how you look at it. Unfortunately, that wasn't true. But even I'm not picking Florida here, so you
love to pick Florida and you love to troll me, and neither of those things got you.
I could do both. I could 2 for 1 here, and I'm not doing it. So
gonna pass.
Keep that in mind. Moving on to Saturday, we've got Spitfire versus Los Angeles Gladiators. We both got the Cowards 3-0 here. I think you're very bullish on the Gladiators. I'm just doing it for I'm really just doing it for strategy reasons. And I mean, Fisher, I think the Gladiators can take a map off of anyone, and that would mean that they can take one off of Spitfire. London.
And I think if there's a pocket strategy, right, the Gladiators are pulling it out for Fissure for this matchup.
Yeah.
Like, you trade me away. He wants this win so bad.
Right. And
He's
he
not
also
gonna
knows
get it,
what they're going to do.
but he wants it.
Right.
Right. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm going with the 3-0. I'm not as confident that they're going to be able to take the win here. I do have London a little bit of a better team than, the Valiant are. So, yeah, I'm not very confident LA is going to get the map win here. Fans aren't confident in it. Nobody's confident in
no
LA
one
on
picks.
this one.
No one picked Gladiators here.
Got to roll with
Right.
London.
Yeah, probably rightfully so. Moving on, we've got New York Excelsior versus San Francisco Shock. You've got New York 4-0. I've got my patented New York at 5-0.
I would pick 5-0, but you said you patented it, so I can't. So
you'd have to pay me a premium to license. I could
not
license
paying
you
to pick poorly.
I could license you out the 5-0, but it would cost you. And 99% of the fans have New York here. I think the only thing that's worth noting here is that we've never seen these teams play. They didn't play in stage 1. This was the off matchup. So maybe that's something. They haven't played against each other. The other thing that is potentially true, just based on the circumstances, but I have no confirmation one way or the other, is that they could have scrimmed a lot during stage 1 just because they knew they weren't playing, so they naturally make good scrim partners. So it's possible that San Francisco has a little bit more insight into New York than other teams do. I don't think that matters enough to give them even a map win.
Couldn't matter in the slightest to me. San Francisco would have to become a completely different team in their earlier matchup in the week. They just come out. Who are they even playing?
What if
Dallas? No, there's no result from the Dallas matchup.
What if Sinatra comes out, but he's wearing a Dante mask? And we get to see Sinatra play. Maybe I give him a win. It's going
to be tough since they'll be disqualified.
Dante.
Since they would probably be disqualified, it would be tough to give him.
No, but if in this fantasy world, it works. We're the only ones that can see it. He's wearing a very cleverly made costume, but we can tell. It's wow, Dante's playing very well and very differently than he normally does. He almost looks like he's playing as Sinatra, and only we can see it. I still think that New York is definitely going to win that. They might get a map. No, I don't think so. The only reason I think they might get a map is no, I don't even think that's the case. It's just not.
There's no reason to be analyzing this line of thought.
I gave it way more credence than it was worth. Last map of the week, we've got Florida Mayhem versus Dallas Fuel. You're picking a Cowards 3-0 for Dallas, and I'm picking the least cowardly possible Florida Mayhem winning here. I'm back on the trade, boys. 3-2 for Florida. I think honestly, this could be completely. Who is Dallas playing? Dallas is playing San Francisco. If Dallas loses to San Francisco, I think that my Florida pick is much more real. I think
it's much more likely. It's still kind of crazy.
It's still a little bit crazy. But there are some stars that could align. If Dallas loses the Shock, I think, that shows that they're really not as good as we thought they were or thought they might be. B, I think the inner turmoil that goes on
that's very accurate.
Is insane if they lose to San Francisco because and not even as a meme either. I'm completely serious about this. That that is a holy crap, we've got some problems.
Yeah, that could break Effect's brain. I
think Effect just says, sell me to, London Spitfire. I don't care what I need to do. Get me on a different team if that's the case. I think the inner turmoil itself is enough. And then also Florida has shown some strength in some cases at some times. If they can pull that together. I mean, they've shown some strength, so we've seen them be decent in places. It stands to reason that they could potentially put that together in a full match. And if, again, it's a shoot the moon here. I don't suggest that you flip this by any means. Don't flip this. Don't be crazy like me, but I am picking it because I still want to believe, and I'm still showing my Pluppy support here. I don't care.
And we have to get a little crazier because we can't change it. We make our picks on Monday evening.
I'm locked in right now. I'm locked in.
And we can't move them. So he doesn't get to like react to the San Fran match.
Yeah,
honestly, I don't know why I'm defending you for picking Florida again. You should have learned your lesson, but here I am doing it for no reason.
This is where I reveal the note from earlier today that says just get Death to defend my position picking Florida, and I actually win the bet here. But no, honestly, if Dallas loses or if they like, even if it's close, maybe like a 3-2 versus San Francisco, like consider it. I think honestly. And if who's Florida playing before? We literally just talked about this, and I still don't remember. They're playing Houston. If Florida gets a map win off of Houston, and they look or they look competitive during it, like if it's a 4-0 easy clap, nothing. But if they look decent, if they look as good as Houston looked against New York,
if they win Route 66, maybe go. All right, whatever.
If Florida look as air quotes good as Houston looked against New York, then maybe we can give Florida a little more credence here. But it's definitely crazy and situational. But we block our picks in on Monday, so such is life. But that's going to bring us to the end of the show, guys. Death, do we have any new iTunes reviews? I'm definitely going to be delaying for a second because you gave me that look of like definitely didn't check. But no new iTunes reviews, so that does remind us that you guys should definitely leave us an iTunes review. And also, I know many of you already have on the flagship show, so greatly appreciated. But if you are a listener on iTunes, and I guess maybe this isn't necessarily clear, but like even if you listen on a different platform, it all feeds back in from iTunes. So if you listen on Stitcher, or you listen on Podcast Addict, or Google Play podcasts, which you can leave a review there too. You may have. Thank you if you have, but we haven't checked it. If you listen on one of those third-party sites, still, if you have an iTunes account, it helps us greatly to leave us a review. So if you are a regular listener and you do like the show, please leave us a review on iTunes. It helps us out. And definitely, if you are a listener to Around the Payload or Foul Play or Ever Upward or Blackwatch Report, leave those shows reviews too. And I really am emphasizing this a lot. It will matter extremely heavily right now because the shows are new. The first 3 episodes get this weird like new and trending boost. So the more that we get up front, the more it's going to help overall on those new shows for the iTunes rating. So please, I beg of you, more than anything else, please leave us a review on iTunes for the new shows, and if you haven't already, for this show. But that's going to be it. Death, any last second stuff for us before we close it?
No, that's it for me. Keep an eye out for the stream, the 12-hour stream we're going to do. We're going to try to bring in, we'll bring in listeners, things like that. You guys just reach out to us on Discord. Yep. We'll be telling you guys when we do it on Discord. So hopefully we can grab a couple of teammates in there, play some games with you guys. It should be a good time. Yeah, definitely going to be a good time. It would be nice if we had 12 people and we could just do internal like scrims. We'll do that if we can. We'll try to pull in celebrities, Blazing Bob, Mel. We'll get as many podcasters in as we can. Yeah. Andres, maybe Rob. He's a little tough being in Japan, but we're gonna be going for 12 hours. He's got to find a spot, right? Got to find a spot. But that is going to be it, guys. I'm going to keep the outro short. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Check out everything we do over at highnoonpodcast.com. Leave us a review on iTunes. The end. Huge shout outs to Adam Hoek, who put together the awesome outro music. And that's it, guys. For Deathblow, I am the Blevins. And remember, it's high noon.
Got his boots and he put on his hat. He threw the coin away that same day. It's in his past and he's not looking back. He says, finding mine now, God's my way. He's not good, but he sure ain't bad. He'll make amends for the sin
No IRL standing ovation triggered.